Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's or Lessons in Confidence, and you might notice that this video looks a little bit different than usual. It looks a little bit more high resolution, a bit more modern, right? I've come out to Camden at the moment, and I just thought I would go through the new sort of technology versus the old, right? So I usually shoot on a Canon camera like this with a really old sort of lens. This is a Soviet lens made in the USSR, right? And so a lot of my stuff tends to look quite 70s inspired, and there's a bit more of an analog feel. That's completely fake. It's all a digital thing, but at the same time, it's like how I like to kind of market stuff. I'm kind of interested in that look, right? However, you need different looks for different things. That 70s look isn't going to work for a business sort of thing. It's not going to work for corporate stuff. By the same token, if you were trying to make kind of a gritty sort of 70s style thriller, you wouldn't want to shoot it on an Arri Alexa. It just wouldn't quite work. So it's about using the right kind of equipment for the right sort of thing and figuring out what kind of equipment you have and how you can manipulate that equipment in various ways to get the kind of results that you might want. So first you sort of think, what is it that you want to capture? What is it you want to do? Do you want to make more corporate sort of stuff and build a professional brand so that you can go out and get clients and stuff, which will pay you loads and loads of money? Yeah, if you want to do that, that's brilliant. Get something like what this is being shot on, which is a DJI Osmo something or other, right? They're like 500 quid. You could probably get them secondhand for a bit cheap on eBay and stuff like that, because you know that's where all the best stuff is, on the secondhand market, right? Or alternatively, if you want a bit more of a traditional kind of soft 70s, slightly analog, semi-analog sort of thing, I like Canon for that, because I just like the color science behind it. It's just got that kind of thing. And I've noticed that so many people are engaging with the videos that I'm doing at the moment that don't look like this, that look a little bit more like this, right? So you see how that kind of looks, and now you see what this kind of looks. And you might think you're a little bit out of you're seeing something a bit out of your depth, and you're seeing something a little bit different, right? And you might be tempted to not have clicked on this video at first because it looks so different. You might think, oh, what's he doing this time? It's a bit weird, right? But then perhaps the weirdness kind of entices you, gets you in, but you might not want to see this kind of thing again, and that's totally fine. I probably won't do more videos like this in future. I'm going to go down this way just to avoid the music. But at the same time, you need to try something a little bit different. You need to do different stuff, because if you just do the same thing all the time, people will get bored. Right? But if you're going out and experimenting non-stop and you don't find a comfort zone to actually return to, then people don't have anything to latch on to. If you're just doing different stuff all the time, say if you were a band, right, and you started off, you made your debut album and it was a ska album, and then you did your second album and it was more of like a punk album, and then you did your third album and it was some kind of like progressive rock. It just wouldn't work, right? How would you find an audience? Because you're doing a different thing all the time and there's no cohesiveness to it. You want a bit of cohesiveness to it, because otherwise you're not really going to be able to capture anything, right? You're not going to be able to capture an element. So how can you find a balance between experimentation and cohesiveness? Well, first off, you need to find what your trick is, what your main thing is. What are you good at? And what you are good at, whatever that may be, try and tap into that. Try and figure out what works for you and what doesn't. And then eventually you will find something that works for you. You know, it might take you a little bit of time, right? You might experiment, find something that doesn't work, but once you find something, just stick with it for a wee bit, build it out, flesh out your niche. And once you do that, once you've figured out your niche, that's when you can start to experiment, broaden your horizons, do slightly different things, right? Because if you just do the same thing each time, right, it's not really going to be as interesting. If you just do the same thing forever, people are going to get bored, as I just said. It's the same reason that, for instance, the band AC/DC, right? They started on the scene, they were doing loads of great stuff, right? First few albums are brilliant, and then they just kept doing the same bloody thing again and again and again. Look, I like AC/DC, right? But I've never listened to their albums from the 1990s or the 2000s or anything like that. Because why would I? Because they've got albums that sound exactly the same that came out in 1977. But by the same token, you look at some band like Pink Floyd, for instance, which evolved their sound from the 1960s onto the 1990s, right? Piper at the Gates of Dawn sounds completely different to the Division Bell, but you can see throughout their discography a consistent evolution. And that's kind of what you want. You want a consistent evolution to create what your brand is and what you are. And it can sound quite cynical to start off going like, oh, you need to figure out your personal brand and stuff, but You kind of do, because everyone has a brand at the end of the day. Whether we want to have these brands or not, it's not an option. That's what you have to deal with, right? So as far as my brand, I tend to like sort of 70s kind of stuff. People associate me with the 70s and the 80s for some bloody reason, right? And that's fine, right? But I want to experiment and broaden my horizons, right? This might not work. If it does work, I'll do more of it. If it doesn't work, then I'll do less of it. And that's fine. It's just about finding your niche and experimenting, doing different stuff. And that's really the end of it. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you managed to get something out of it. If you liked it and you like this sort of style, then please let me know if you want more of this kind of thing, because I do think there's something interesting to be said about the different styles of different cameras and the way that different sensors kind of work to create different vibes. Like, I could never make this kind of video with my usual camera, right? And by the same token, I couldn't make my normal kind of videos with this camera, right? So it's all about broadening your horizons, trying different stuff. You can even just rent out little bits of equipment just to give things a go, see what works for you. You'll find your home eventually. And once you do, then you're sorted. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, everybody. Leave your comments in the thing below about what you think of the new versus the old style. This isn't the new style. Like, I'm going to go back to normal stuff after this, so don't worry if you like that kind of thing. And if you like this kind of thing, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do much more of it. And yeah, leave your comments about that. Have a good rest of the day. Take care. Love you all. And thank you very much for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.